this is Wolfychu, and I've traveled to a lot of different places. I used to really like traveling to different countries, but nowadays I don't really leave the house. But even though I do like seeing new places, I really just don't like the trips. Even just being in airports makes me feel kind of anxious, especially if I'm about to get on a long-haul flight. Which reminds me of a story I have from the very first time I traveled alone. It was actually the time I traveled over to Australia to live with my boyfriend. And of course, the trip to Australia is a very long trip, so you would usually want to fall asleep on the plane. So I was trying to sleep in my seat, which was super uncomfortable because I couldn't stretch out or anything. But eventually I did manage to doze off, and I seem to always move around a lot when I'm asleep. Like, many days I'll wake up and find that somehow I tore the sheets completely off the bed in my sleep. I have no idea how. Anyway, I was slowly waking up on the plane. I was in that stage where you're half asleep and you don't even know that you're awake yet, and I wasn't comfortable, so I stretched my legs out and my foot hit something soft. Whatever this thing was, it was in my way, so I kicked it. I kept trying to push this thing out of my way until I realized where I was, and I looked over and saw that I was kicking the man sitting next to me. I was horrified. I looked at the man's face, but he was actually asleep. Or at least I think he was. Maybe he didn't want to say anything, so he just pretended to be asleep. Since the flight is such a long one, I had a layover, which means that your flight stops somewhere, usually around the halfway point, which in my case was Singapore. Even though I would love to visit Singapore properly someday, this layover was actually not that great because it meant... internet, so I pretty much just spent the entire time on Skype. At one point though, I did need to eat something, so I went looking for a restaurant. So I chose this one nice looking noodle bar and I ordered fried rice and sat down. This will probably sound weird, but this was the first time in my life where I'd ever used chopsticks. The waitress brought my food and I started eating. I thought that I was doing okay with the chopsticks and probably nobody could even tell that I'd never done this before. But I guess not, cause the little Japanese man sitting opposite me suddenly offered me a spoon and he said, "Just use this." I could feel my face burning. I felt like I probably just looked really silly to everyone else in the restaurant. So I quickly thanked the man and finished eating my fried rice with the spoon. And then it was almost time for my next flight, so I figured out what gate number I was and I headed over to where I needed to go. Soon after that, they started boarding the flight. I was about third in line from the desk when I suddenly felt like something wasn't right. I looked up at the board above the lady at the desk's head and saw that it said Vietnam. I thought, surely not. Surely I couldn't have gotten this wrong. But I looked over at the flight board and saw that I had made a big mistake. She put her arms up in front of our kids completely in protect mode, so I probably looked crazy. The man got me to calm down. He told me that it was fine, I would be able to make it on time, and he pointed me in the right direction. I made it to my flight on time and I arrived safely in Australia, so everything worked out fine. Although, it could have definitely been a lot easier for me if I hadn't been so clumsy.